Today I'm in Plymouth to build a 4K video rendering computer for my friends at Hawk Visuals. They do aerial drone photography for landscape, real estate, and businesses. You can check them out at hawkdronephotography.com on Instagram or on their YouTube channel. Links are in the description. For this computer build we had a budget of around $1,600 including the monitor and keyboard. So here are the parts that we chose. The case is a Phanteks Eclipse P400 in white. It has a tempered glass side panel with gray tint and should not scratch as easily as having a plexiglass side panel. It also comes with an RGB light strip and two Phanteks 120mm fans. The hard drive is a Samsung 960 EVO 250GB PCIe M.2 ensuring fast performance. The power supply is a Corsair 750W modular, which was on sale at the time that we bought it. For the motherboard we are using a Asus Strix X370F with matching Asus Strix GTX 1050 Ti. We decided to go all out on the processor with a Ryzen 1800X and a CryoRig H7 CPU cooler. Last but not least, we're using 16GB of Corsair LPX DDR4 RAM clocked at 3GHz. I start the assembly of the computer with the motherboard on top of the anti-static plastic that it came wrapped in. I'm also wearing some latex gloves to minimize fingerprints, and I made sure to discharge myself before touching any of the components. Since we are using the H7 cooler, I removed the stock AMD mounting brackets to reveal something I wish Asus advertised. At this time, almost no air cooler comes with an AM4 bracket natively. Most heatsink companies will ship you a bracket for free, but it can take up to 10 business days for them to come in. The Strix is compatible with both AMD4 and AMD3 brackets, which is very nice. To install the processor, I lift the lever and line up the arrows on the CPU with that of the board. There should be no force when placing the CPU. Make sure not to touch any of the pins as the oils on your fingers can cause a bad connection. I move the lever to the down position which secures the CPU into place. Next I install the M.2 SSD. I dry fit the component to find where to place the standoff and then secured it down with the included screw. Since we are only using 2 sticks of memory, I check with the motherboard manual for recommended placement. Make sure everything clicks into place. I lay the Phanteks case on its side and then check the motherboard standoffs. Each of the standoffs have an A or M or A/M written next to it. These stand for ATX or micro ATX. Since we are using an ATX board, we do not need to change anything. However, if we were using a micro ATX board, we could remove some of the standoffs as they are not needed. I install the I/O shield and then gently lower the motherboard into place. To secure the motherboard, I'm using the screws included with the case. I only tighten them until they are snug and then give them an extra quarter turn. Next I install the power supply and attach one PCI power cable and one SATA power cable to the modular ports. I mount the power supply fan side down and use the 4K screws to secure it into place. Keep in mind, if you mount the power supply in this fashion, do not run the computer on a carpet as it can cause the power supply to overheat. I run the CPU and the 24-pin power connector up the back of the case, being mindful of cable management. The P400 has 2 fans and a fan controller. I decided not to use the controller and rather use the case fan headers on the motherboard. This allows me to control the fans with the included software suite that comes with the Republic of Gamers boards. Highlighted are the fan headers used to accomplish this. Next comes the struggle. To install the CryoRig H7, I must place a backplate and thread 4 mounting screws through the motherboard. I add a plastic spacer over each of the screws and clean the CPU and heatsink with alcohol. I place a small amount of thermal compound on the CPU, and the difficult part of installing this cooler is lining up the 4 screws. This took me about 15 minutes of fiddling and many swears to get into place. Fortunately, the cooler looks very nice and performs well. Next I remove 2 PCI covers and install the GTX 1050 Ti and attach the power cable. Since this card only requires one 6-pin connector, I used a zip tie to clean it up. Plug in all the front I/O and we're done. Installing the OS was very fast with the SSD, and the ASUS control suite was very nice. The case fans don't even turn on until the CPU gets over 50 degrees C on silent mode. ASUS Aurora allows us to control the lighting on the motherboard and graphics card. Unfortunately, the Fantex included RGB strip is not compatible with the Aurora as it does not have the proper connector. As far as performance, it is 3 to 4 times faster than the 2015 MacBook Pro that he was using before, and it can play Overwatch on max settings at 75 FPS, MechWarrior at 80 FPS, Fallout 4 at 70 FPS, and this is all at 1080p. It has a Cinebench score of 1600 on average, and does very well with the temperatures maxing out at 70 degrees C on a silent fan curve at 60% fan usage. Hopefully it should last Hawk visuals a long time, and I hope you enjoy this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and before you go, I have a proposition. It would be nice to get into more tech, however tech is really expensive. I'm unsure how these tech channels get started, so I have this idea. If you're thinking of building a computer, I will assemble and test the computer for free as long as I can make a video on it. I have not really worked out the details, but it would be something like I help you pick out the parts, you order and ship them to my PO box, and then you just have to cover the shipping back to you. I promise this is not a scam, but more of a way to interact with you guys and gals and share any issues with working with these parts, so you get a better idea of what to buy. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching and have a nice day.